Hey guys, I have a fun new duo right here. These are a continuation of the Hourglass Cosmetics Vanish Seamless Finish line. This is the new concealer, and I have mine in the shade Creme, $34. And this is the concealer brush, and this one was $38. Now, I'm super excited about these. I was thrilled to find them early in Sephora in San Francisco when I was visiting. So let's go ahead and get this video started. So when I was in store, I believe I counted about 22 shades to choose from. One thing I did feel like they could have done better was the shade selection. It seemed like they didn't go very deep. I was looking at a large sea of middle ground beige, and I didn't really see any super deep shades. There were a couple that were a little bit closer to like that almond tones. I don't know if I was only seeing a partial collection, but from what I was swatching, it didn't seem to me like it had a lot of darker colors, which, come on now, it's almost 2020. So yeah, that was one thing that I wasn't impressed with the gondola. Let me know when you find out more, like maybe it was just what I was seeing and maybe there's more information. I'm sure this will be dropping online any day now. I don't really know what the drop date is, but check your local Sephora's and online if you're interested. I find that the Vanish Seamless Airbrush line from Hourglass has historically worked for me really well. I love their stick foundation. It has a fuller coverage with more of a radiant finish. I love the stick foundation brush, absolutely amazing right here. And I actually really like the liquid foundation as well, even though it is a little bit more matte. I would say that the concealer definitely falls in line with that more matte vibe. It is long wearing and I pretty much love it, but it can look a little bit dry underneath the eyes. For somebody like me who is on the ultra dry side of things, you may not love it because it is a little bit of a drier formula. I do think if you're a little bit oilier or if you have trouble with concealer wearing a long time on you, you'll really like this concealer because it's not very prone to creasing or moving, and it's very long wearing. It does look really natural and it's buildable. I generally like a medium coverage concealer that is buildable. If it's too lightweight and sheer like the MAC Studio Water Weight Concealer, it doesn't do a good job at covering my lupus rash, which is a major concern of mine with concealing. But if it's too heavy coverage, like the Tarte Shape Tape, ooh, no, that's just not natural enough for me, and it's too drying. So this is a really great medium ground. It is pretty much medium and buildable. Not super prone to creasing, but also not crease proof. Definitely want to set this if you tend to have a lot of creasing. By the way, this concealer has 0.2 fluid ounces, which is pretty standard, a little more than the YSL, the same as the Giorgio Armani, which is why I'm comparing these two. I would say that this is more matte than both of these and has about similar coverage. And another one to compare it to is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. This one, the NARS one, is definitely a bit more radiant. This one is definitely more matte, similar coverage. So the coverage is good. It's definitely a nice amount of coverage. I find that underneath my eyes, if I have a little bit more blue tones, it can peek through a bit, as you'll see in my demo with just one layer of this concealer. But a little bit does go a long way, and I find that if you are looking for really natural and matte, this is a really nice option. Is it my favorite of the favorite? No, I would say that spot is still taken by my #1 matte concealer, which is from NARS. The Soft Matte Complete Concealer is my everyday sort of concealer. I find that it covers my lupus rash. It isn't too matte that I look dry, and you can even layer over already set foundation or complexion products. It's a really great one in my collection. I can't seem to beat it, but this is really good, really long wearing, really beautiful. It is overall a positive review, but is it a must buy? I don't know. What I do think is a must buy, personally, is this brush. You guys know I've been really into these angle concealer brushes lately. One of my favorites is the Shakuda. Ooh, this touch-up brush right here from Shakuda has this flat angle. It makes things so easy. You can really pat product in and build up coverage. You can buff, you can swipe. It's just a multi-purpose, fabulous brush. And this one is similar. I love that it has this soft dome to it. It also has a little bit more coverage on the skin than something like the Shakuda, so it's slightly more efficient, and this sort of ergonomic shape to it and the slight pinch to the ferrule on the one side really makes this a keeper. It's absolutely fabulous. I would like to compare it to the foundation brush from Hourglass. As you can see here, the handle is substantially longer and thinner, and that is not the only difference. This one here is completely rounded, and this one, like I said earlier, has this flat pinch on one side, and on top of that, the bristles are ever so slightly less densely packed. I think that that was so smart on their part, because when you're working with liquid concealer, you really want to be able to move the product around, but you don't need such density that it's almost sponge-like, like with this, where you really want to really pull the product around. This is really fabulous because it becomes so multi-purpose. Not only can you buff out product, shear it out so that you have this airbrush wash, but you can also use it to spot conceal and build up coverage. And in addition to that, what makes the amount of density really fabulous is you can also set your concealer with something like this, as I did today. You can absolutely dip this into powder and lightly set to prevent any creasing and wear throughout the day. The actual shape makes it perfect for fitting right in the hard to reach nose areas, right underneath, right around the mouth. You can contour like I did on the sides of the nose. It's perfect for concealing the lid space. If you've got veining you want to conceal, it fits really nicely into my inner corner socket and underneath the eyes. I am such a fan of this brush. I think that you can't go wrong with it. It's so fabulous. My only teeny tiny complaint is that where the ferrule meets the actual handle of the brush, on mine, it's not perfectly aligned. So we've got this little ridging. And now if it were purely an aesthetic concern, I will probably wouldn't even be bothered to mention it. But that slight unevenness makes me worried that maybe product or moisture might seep in there and loosen that ferrule. We don't ever want moisture going down into ferrules of the brushes. So that's my only tiny complaint, is that there's this ever so slight raised edge, and these aren't quite aligned in my particular brush. Besides that, the weight is really nice and luxurious. The actual bristles are, for synthetic bristles, man, you can't really get much better. Like, these are so, so nice. The length is really awesome. I'm so glad they decided to make this one longer than the foundation brush, because as I was concealing, I found that I really utilized the extra length. And if you're working on somebody else, I mean, you definitely need the extra length. But even when you are working on yourself, it's different than buffing in foundation, where you don't really necessarily need that extra length, but you want that support from holding a brush closer. With buffing out concealer, you want that movement in there that you get easier when you have a slightly longer handle. That being said, it's not a very long brush. Compared to most of my brushes, it's absolutely shorter. Like this Chikuhodo, as you can see here. My Sephora concealer brush, the 57, absolutely shorter. You can see here. But compared to some traditional Japanese sizes, it's actually longer. Alright, so I hope that my 2 cents were somehow helpful for you, and if you would like to see me apply this concealer on my face and use this brush, as well as some of the other Hourglass products in the Vanish line, complexion-wise, then go ahead and keep on watching. I'm going to quickly throw on a light base of my Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish Liquid Foundation in the color Shell. This is pretty heavy coverage for me, so I like to just dab on a little bit in the key points. Then blend it out using my Hourglass Stick Foundation brush. I do really like this foundation, but it's a little bit more on the matte side of comfort for me. I'm going to take a little bit of stick foundation. I'm going to take a dash of porcelain in the stick foundation on the brush and just highlight a little bit before I use the concealer. It's a slightly dewier finish than the liquid. And then I'm going to take a little bit of almond. Just do Okay, so now for the concealer. I'm going to use this concealer to prime my eyelids as well as conceal the under eyes. I do like the doe foot on this. Bring in a little bit here and there. Right around the nose, a little bit on the chin. No need to re-dip. It pulls out a nice amount of product. And with the brush, I just like to and here you can see how it blends out around the nose. This brush is awesome for fitting in different places around the nose, the eyes, the lips. You can shear out the product like I am doing on the chin, or you can pat that product in for fuller coverage, like I am doing underneath the eyes. I don't like to wait too long because it does set, so I better get moving up around here. As you can see, it blends out very quickly and seamlessly. So this is what we're looking at. I can still see a bit of darkness peeking through, slightly gray toned. I have been liking this concealer with color correctors, so I don't have to use too much, but for the sake of this demo, I just want to use this one product so you can see what it's like on my skin type. It's ever so slightly dry looking. Yeah, ever so slightly dry looking. I do have extremely dry skin, but there's no streakiness with this brush, no creasing, and I did put it up on my eyelids where I would experience creasing. So for the sake of demoing buildability, I'm going to take the second round. I'm going to bring a little bit around the mouth too. I love this brush. It's super soft and effective. And I can use a stamping motion right around here. Okay, and then for the under eyes, let's see how the coverage builds. That extra length compared to the foundation brush is very helpful with this concealer brush. I find that on myself it's nice to have that little extra length to work with. Fits really nicely in the inner corner. I don't want to stop blending even though I don't need to keep blending because I just love this brush so much. Okay, I would say it's looking like full coverage with that second layer. There's ever so slightly peekage right through. Peekage. There's a little bit coming through right here. Let's see if that'll cover it up. I threw on this by Terry Lip Expert Shine in Vintage Nude on my lips, and then I'm going to take this Danessa Myricks Vision Flush in Ballet Slippers. As you can hopefully see here, I don't really have much creasing. I have the tiniest bit right underneath my eye there. So as you can see, it's not prone to creasing, but it's also not crease proof on its own. So I'm just going to tap underneath the eyes really fast and set. I am going to quickly set using this concealer brush. I usually use a separate brush so that I'm not switching between creams and powders all the time. I want to show you how easy it is to set with this brush if you're interested in that. I'm just using a little bit of powder from my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder, which is my favorite, and I use it all the time. And with just a tiny bit, I go ahead and push that into the concealer. This concealer is very matte, but also very natural looking. When I look up close, it doesn't look cakey or makeup-y. Even when I build up the coverage to full, which normally I wouldn't go for. I would normally just go for medium coverage with my concealers.